just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other.
Coach Nick in the building. What's going on?
Happy July, middle of July, July 18th, I believe today. What's happening? We talked a lot about seasons lately, and it's so important to be conscious of seasons, but not be consumed by seasons. This is an interesting balance, tension to be had, isn't it, Coach? I want to take into advisement previous people's experience, modeling success, personal experience, but also don't want to take that as a given. What do you hear? What jumps out for you?
I think such is nature, and that things go through life cycles, hot and cold cycles, planting and reaping and harvesting and reflection cycles. And I think that's the same for business. Business is a form of nature. It's something that's naturally occurring that as we move along in our capitalist society here. And there are cycles. There are things that happen at different points in time for whatever reason. That could be a whole nother episode to dissect why it happens. But I think, especially as is connected for whatever reason to our industry, we're getting into the two quarters, Q3 and Q4, which seem to be a time where people commit and immerse themselves into commitments and coaching. And here we are. So how do we best prepare for the next 5-6 months that we will get ourselves into? There's like we believe there's so many opportunities out there. There's plenty enough to go around for everyone. So how can we best prepare? What do we do now to put ourselves in the best place to reap the benefits of what might occur in the future months? That's what I think about.
Yeah. Anticipation is the word that jumps out. In business or in life, if you can anticipate, you're in a completely different place than if you're too late to the game and you're reacting. You can see things before they're happening. You can negate the need at all. Prevention is better than cure. Like, you can get really good at fixing stuff, but you shouldn't have to, right? I'm thinking back to my martial arts training Muay Thai. There's loads of different defenses that you can use and blocks that you can do to take those attacks, not to knock you down. But the best defense would always be, whoa, just get out there. Don't be there to be hit. And blocking and tackling, I suppose, is another sports analogy to think about this. But it's taking what is there under advisement, but going forward as well, because you don't want to do is say, this is what this season's about. So therefore, I'm going to kick back and just go, that's the season. You want to say, okay, we've got some evidence that this season tends to be like this. What must I do here to make sure that I capitalize on the next season? And what next time must I do in the previous season to make sure that I can maximize where we are right now? I suppose my gut is saying, don't fall for it. The season's the season. It's like, well, hang on, I'm in charge. I'm in charge. It's the season based on what I say it to be. And I don't know what the numbers are, but if you can look at any given industry, at any given situation, you might say there's less people doing business activity in the summer because they're doing more family stuff. I'm sure that is true. I have no idea what the numbers look like, what percentages might look like. But I know for damn sure there's still a ton of people that are looking to do the opposite right now as well. That's my concern. Well, that's my observation about how we think about the seasons. Mm-hmm. Take them on their advisement, but don't be bowled over by them.
Can you have an unseasonably warm day in wintertime?
Right, exactly.
That's what I think about. So when we talk about seasons, I'm glad you brought that up because it's more of a primary season. So if we're entering into perhaps say a spring season, doesn't mean that we're not reaping benefits or even reflecting at times. We talked about that in previous episodes. It's more of a primary season. So primary seed planting. I love what you said about anticipating, seeing things before they happen. We know, that's the value of knowing what season that you're in or what season that's coming, is that you can do things that put you into the right place. It's like, I'll use a favorite reference of mine, playing hockey. All right, Wayne Gretzky had a famous quote that said, "Don't skate to where the puck is, skate to where it's going to be." And you can see all these people skating around the ice and chasing the puck, and here he is standing still, and sure enough, the puck lands on his stick. So I think about that with this. We know what's coming. Don't we want to be standing there waiting to catch all these opportunities that come in? And if we're reactive to them and like, oh my gosh, look at them all, we're just going to be chasing. We're just going to be chasing the puck around the ice. We want to be standing in a place to where we can score so that when the puck comes to us, we can just put it in the net.
Even I know that hockey quote from Wayne Gretzky. I saw some thing on YouTube with him the other day talking about how much money he made off the computer games. I digress.
More than his hockey career?
More than his hockey career. Lots of money.
Wow.
Lots of money. Yeah. And I love the reference to that, right? Because then it's standing where the puck's going to go, but it's not always going to go to the same place. So what do I need to do before I move to that position to know which position to move to? So it's difficult, right, to say, like you said, the primary season. Let's go back to our powerful mind scan tool for a second and think about, for those of you who know that, we'll get this, but those of you who don't, as we look at the mind scan, it shows you how you value certain areas of thinking or not, as the case may be, but it's a spectrum, one extreme to the other. And everywhere has strengths and everywhere has potential weaknesses. So some people, I'm sure coaches happen to you a bunch of times. What's the right mind scan? What mind scan should I have? Well, it depends what you want. There's no bad or good inherently mind scan. I have been a lot in the middle of those biases. And the strength of being in the middle, of course, is that you can see both sides really well. The potential weakness of that is that you can see both sides really well. So you don't know where to go. If you're at one end, it's like, this is what it is. This is what I believe to be true. It's here. Here it is. I got it. It's very clear. But when you're in the middle, like, you get the balance, but you also get more challenges sometimes to make decisions. I find the same thing true here with the analogy of the seasons. So what season you're in? My initial reaction is, well, it depends. What, like, in this hour, which part of my life? In this day, in this week? Is it a week and a part of my life, or what subcategory of which part of my life? So I can see both sides, but that's challenging for me because then it's harder, or it becomes more of an effort to actually make a defined decision about taking action in those places. Where do you see it?
I'm reminded of, I remember a fellow coach of ours, Coach Matt, shared something months and months ago. This may be 1 to 2 years ago at this point, but he has the discipline, something that I should maybe look a little bit more into, of documenting his time and tracking his time with his activities. So at any given point, at any given week, I think it was the breakdown, he could tell you how many hours he spent prospecting, how many hours he spent delivering, how many hours he spent reflecting. And I'm wondering if those numbers are more of the indicator of the season that you're in. And for whatever purpose, maybe just to put a label on it. Hey, these 3 months I spent more time prospecting than these 3 months where I spent more time delivering. And what's the value of that? I don't know. Maybe if the same numbers show up the following year, you sense a pattern. And then that's where your experience can be leveraged into more anticipatory activities. Knowing that I will be prospecting these months, how might I leverage that information to get more out of this? And I think that's where I intended to go today, knowing that these next few months in Q3 and Q4 are known for, very fruitful times, just thinking about how we might take advantage of that.
Love it. That's really helpful to think about the tracking of it, because you create your own micro in the macro. This is what's true, the consensus, but this is what's been actually true for me. And I suppose this is the underlying theme of everything for me recently, and I mean the last 6 months. It's always been like the concept of this tension. Everything is based on the tension between extremes. The extremes of things are completely different. The closer you get to the middle of things, the more similar they are than different. Kind of like men and women. Not an area I want to get into necessarily, but extremes are obviously different. But as you get closer, we're more similar than we are not. So the answer to most things is always it depends. so you've got to have a stake, and my stake is always around what does that person want, and then I can answer the question of as to like where are you on the spectrum of one tension to the other, one extreme to the other.
Yeah, I had a thought. I want to share this as we begin to wrap here. We're going to keep a nice tight episode today, if you're okay with that, Coach.
Yeah, baby.
I think maybe here's a crazy insight that I'd like to try on, see what your thoughts are here. Maybe the seasons, at least in the analogy that we're making of our industry, coaching, is more of a symptom of something that is not necessarily good. And I'll share what I mean by that. So maybe the cycle is, how I might think of it, is winter is reflection. My calendar's somewhat empty. I don't have a lot going on. And it's more of a natural progression to go into a spring season. Okay, well, what do I do about not, having all this time and wanting to add value to people? Okay, and what's next is a lot of prospecting. I want to get out there, add value to people's lives. I do that. So what inevitably happens after? Well, lots of delivery. People start making commitments, drinking the Kool-Aid, getting excited about this. And then so what happens? All of a sudden, my schedule is so busy. I need winter. I need fall to roll around. I need winter to happen. And so maybe we want to prevent seasons from happening. And we're always looking for, like you're saying right now, that equilibrium to where we're doing a little bit of reflecting, a little bit of prospecting, a little bit of delivery, and a little bit of reaping. I think I may have repeated a couple, but you get the concept. All the time. And we're never in balance, right? Maybe there's a moment where we have the balance, the perfect balance, but it always swings in one direction or another. But we're always seeking that balance. We're seeking to get back to that equilibrium. So maybe we don't want to immerse so fully into spring, knowing that we're going to overwhelm ourselves in the summer and then we're going to crave the fall and winter. So I just want to think about that maybe a little bit more and get your thoughts on how you feel about that.
Love it. Absolutely love it. My reflection this morning as I was doing some thinking time was indeed that I've gone through the seasons of getting really excited, sharing with lots of people, filling up my calendar, then going, all of a sudden, it's too much. Or some sort of threshold gets crossed and it makes it too much. And then I put it into, or I'm pushed into that reflection, wintertime, and then had just enough to go, I got the space, and then just immediately filled it back up again. So this also ties into my execution, reflection, and rest.
Yes.
Execution, rest. And so my acknowledgement is that I want to be intentionally more flexible around being able to be into the seasons without being caught too far deep into the seasons. I want to have maybe less cold winters and less scorching summers, more temperate. I want it to be 75, not 95. I want it to be 40 degrees, not 20 degrees. And so just where it's not so extreme for so long, and perhaps the times that it is in those places, I think is valuable. But living at the extremes creates extremity. No, living at the extremities creates extremes. Yeah, obviously. But the extremes are just that, and you don't want to be in that space because by their very nature they're not sustainable. There would be extremes otherwise.
Yeah. I want to put a bookmark in this conversation because I want to pick it up. I just got some more thoughts about, the right question to ask might not be how do we optimize the season that we're going into or about to go into, but more of how do we defend against the risk of going into the extreme of the next season if we're not too careful. Might be something to think about.
And also think about how much of the season are we in control of? Because the analogy perhaps doesn't extend enough. Because we know that seasons change in how they impact and how extreme they are, but we're talking about things that we do not control. Whereas this seasons we can control more when it comes to business, comes to our life. Great stuff, Coach.
Absolutely, more to ponder, and you got me thinking. You got me altering my perspective on this. I really appreciate today's conversation.
Likewise, got it.
All right,
pretty cool.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.